Hi, here we are again with the head model, and in this tutorial we're going to start building some more structure for the mouth and lips. After that we'll move on to the eye and then finally the nose, and hopefully we'll get to the ear. I'm going to try and break this up into small tutorials so we won't get through the mouth in this one video, but we'll get to the first step. So what you may want to do at this point is to delete the history on your object. I've already done that on mine. You can go to Edit, Delete by Type, History. The other thing you may want to do is to freeze its transformations. If you look over here in my channel box, you can see that the head is not zeroed out in the world, so it's actually at a funny scale from when I first made the box and from when I moved it around and everything. And just to tidy up a little bit, you can say modify freeze transformations, and everything will be zeroed out and the scales will be one'd out. So what you have here is a nice template model that you could save to use for other projects. And in fact, that's as I've told you before, this is a new technique for me modeling this way. I used to use a different technique, but from now on I'm going to start from this template or something similar to it. I've done it a couple times now, so I've got a couple of templates, but they're largely the same. The other thing I wanted to point out is that sometimes these planes in the perspective view with the images on them can be slightly distracting. If you want to turn those off in the perspective view window, you can just go to Show and turn off cameras, and that will turn off the image planes too. I'm going to leave them on for now because I don't really need to get to the back of the head, which is the part that's kind of the hardest, that's blocked by this view. Okay, so let's look at the mouth here. So you can see we've got the mouth roughed in, but we have to add a little more detail. These broad polygons here don't give us enough to work with, so I'm going to add an edge loop in here. So go to Edit Mesh, Insert Edge Loop tool. Let's click here in the middle. It gives us a nice edge loop that actually gives us a little more detail in the eye, so when we get to the eye we can do that too. We're going to add another edge loop in here right into the corner of the mouth. If you see here, I've got these two vertices separated by this edge. I want to have another vertice or vertex in here to help define the corner of the mouth. So to do that, I have to put in another edge loop, and it'll also help us refine the jawline and the cheek a little bit too. So if you ever want to go back to the tool that you just used, and I just used the Insert Edge Loop tool, you can just press Y on the keyboard and it'll go back to the last tool used. So I want to click here on this line to make sure I'm getting in the right spot and just put it right in the middle. So we've added some resolution to our model, and now we can model a little more with a little more refinement. So the first thing I'm going to do is place the corner of the mouth, and I will go into the side view to do that. So you're going to start to see why it's good to have a fairly well resolved illustration and a lot of your decisions made while you're modeling, because it just makes your life easier. So if your illustration that you produced is maybe doesn't have a lot of detail around the mouth, things like that, you're going to have to sort of wing it as you go along and look at references and try and do the best you can. So I'm going to take this vertex here and in the side view just move it back, so I'm starting to define my mouth shape, and go to the front view and push it in to the corner of the mouth there. So what we're going to be defining with this this line here, the mouth, is the meeting or the parting line of the mouth here. We're going to add the lips, or the transitional zone, the colored part of the lips, later, but we're just going to actually work in where the mouth meets. So now we've got these other 2 points on either side of the corner of the mouth. They're all off kilter here, but we want to have a nice tight corner, so we're going to move them in close. So we're going to do that in the front view first. So you can see I'm just moving them in, putting them into the corner of the mouth. So when you have a tight angle when you're modeling something, it means you have to have more points close together to accommodate that change. So that's why we're putting these close together. So now I'm doing this in the side view. You can see that this blue line here is a little thicker than my other lines. That's how I know it's my border edge, so it's part of an open edge. So I'm going to place that in here. And you can see up in the perspective view what that's doing. It's making a nice tight little corner in the mouth there. Okay, so now just looking at this, I may want to, I'm just going to spread out the chin a little bit. You can see it's a bit of a squarish chin. So I'm just going to, whoops, select this point, move it out a bit. Select this point. Always sort of half aware of whether I'm selecting polygons in the back of the model by accident, but I don't think I am in this case. So I'm just moving these out. And then here in the side view, I probably want to push these back a little bit. So I can select these two. And then if I select this vertex, you see I select two here, and I'm going to push these back a little bit. So we're starting to get the shape of the chin a little bit, but it's not close yet. We don't have enough resolution in there, but we're not worrying about it. Now remember, I can always preview this in smooth mode by hitting 3 to see what we're kind of getting here. You can see we're getting closer to the chin shape. Oops, excuse me. So now I'm just going to continue to work on, and I should say that as I start adding detail in here, I'm going to be working in 3 mode a lot more, or 2 mode where I have the cage over the smooth, because you really have to exaggerate some of these points to get the shape of the lip, and it's hard to tell unless you're actually previewing in smooth mode. But for now, we'll just keep working in the rough mode here. So I'm just going to start putting these points in to define the lips. So as you can see, I'm working in one angle, or from one view, and then moving to another view. I'm going to try and keep these ones sort of lined up in the middle so we get a nice flat edge in the middle. So the lower lip is kind of fatter off laterally a little bit. The upper lip has a dip down in the middle. Now I'm modeling mine with the mouth open slightly because I want to reveal her teeth. Yours is closed, so you're going to have these lines much closer together. So yours will be, even could be overlapped to get that the nodule in the middle of the upper lips. You may be modeling even like that a little bit. So you're just, because you're modeling where the lips meet. In my case, I am having the lips open slightly, so I don't want them to meet. And then here in the side view, I'm going to push some of these points back. Even push this back a little bit, defining this sort of plane on the face. You can see I'm moving these way back because I'm going to add resolution to get this bulge in the lips later in the next tutorial. You can see that I'm refining this edge loop that is part of orbicularis oris here, in here. Now the other thing I want to do is make sure that now you know that as you know, the lips are not just the colored area of the lips. The lips go all the way from the nose down to the internal membrane inside the mouth. So we want to start to define the space of the lips a little bit. So we've got these points here that are going up into the nose. So I'm going to grab this one, move it over to where the nares or the edge of the ala are. I'm going to pull these ones down. Oops, I want to make sure they go straight down to get sort of where the philtrum goes into the nose. Oh, I got something funny going on here. Oh, I see. See, when I pull this down, there's this line in here that moved. That's in the back of the head, I think. So if I go into the perspective view, yep, sure enough, I actually had a point. You can see selected back there. So I'm just going to undo, Control select that one to get rid of it. It happens all the time. You'll be modeling and then a little while later you look at the back of your head and there's a big warp in it, and it's because you moved it by accident. So I'm going to look here in the side view now. So I'm taking this point, I'm going to push it back here, and I'm going to take these 2 points and push them back here. We're going to define the nose after we do the eye and the mouth. So now this point is too far forward. Push this one back a little bit. See how we're starting to resolve the planes of the face here a little bit. Again, I'm not really achieving the tissue depth marker depths yet, but I'm not too worried about it because I'll have lots of time to add more resolution later, or just enough resolution to achieve all that stuff. So you can see here I'm exaggerating the open mouth a little more because I do want to show the teeth and you guys do not want to show the teeth. Just looking at the cheek a little bit, it's sinking. We've added some resolution in here, so I'm going to pull this out a little bit to sort of match my tissue depth markers a little bit to get rid of that big divot in there. I've done this model before. I did a test run through this before I'm making the tutorial, of course. And I do notice some problems with some of my tissue depth markers, and I'm interested to see what happens, and particularly with the Super M2, I think it is in there really deep. It's this one here, and to match it, I have to pull the face in really deep. So I think I have to double check I didn't make a mistake. But if I didn't, I'm going to largely ignore it because I think my skull doesn't look like the maxilla goes in that deep there. So anyway, I'm not sure what's going on, but these are the things that we will investigate as we come to them. Okay, so I've worked in some detail on the mouth here, and I've pulled out the cheeks a little bit. See, if I go into 3 mode, you can see that the face sinks in a little bit, so I can stand to pull it out a tiny bit more. But I'm not going to worry too much about it. You can see I need to pull out this cheekbone a lot more. But I'm not going to worry too much about it until I start adding more resolution into the face. So I'll stop this tutorial here and let you finish up this part of the mouth, refining the cheek and chin a little bit. That looks pretty good. Oh, that looks a little too far out. Anyway, we're going to add more points here in the mouth so we'll be able to get closer to what the mouth actually looks like. I think that's in a little bit too far. Okay, so we'll see you in the next tutorial and we'll build up the lips even more.